All right, so we are recording and starting the official business of the SPJ Freelance Community. It is Wednesday, April 13th, 2022, 4:12 p.m. Eastern Time, Eastern Daylight Time. Yeah, I'm glad that most of us could be here. We have a couple of board members missing, but also a couple guests. So it's awesome to have Joan and Lyda join us. Thank you for being here. I do want to all hop into the agenda, but since we do have guests, if there's anything in particular that you were here to learn about or to offer or to ask about, I want to give you the opportunity to have the floor first so that you don't have to sit through the entire meeting just to say whatever you came for. So.
Well, I think I finally joined, so I'm not
yes. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we got that sorted out. And I will go through those instructions and do some other screenshots to make it a little bit more clear how to join. So thanks for your patience with that. I'm glad that we got you in.
Thanks for your help.
Yeah, of course. And thanks for your help too, Hazel. Hazel, you didn't have to do that, but thank you for doing that. Checking the Gmail box while I was away.
So what does the freelance community do? I mean, what is your mission? What is that I just joined?
I don't think that I actually am not sure if we have an official mission statement, but so we are we exist to create a community among freelancers, both freelancers who are members of SPJ, and also we offer some programming and resources that are available to non-members as well. But we try to be sort of a virtual community to, I think that a lot of freelancers working independently miss out on the camaraderie of the newsroom. I know that that's been a really important part of the freelance community for me as a member since joining. And so that's really important for us to just keep like a thriving community of freelancers, a place for people to share professional development skills and knowledge and resources, and also to ask questions. You know, you don't have the advantage of just being able to look to the person to your left in the newsroom and ask them to look over a public records request before you send it, or to just vent about a really tough interview that you just had. And so there's a lot, especially on our Facebook group, there's a lot of just sort of general support and question asking and knowledge sharing that happens. We also have started monthly events, virtual events. And again, some of those are reserved for SPJ members only, and some we make available to the wider community. We also propose and produce, we propose freelance related sessions for the annual convention and produce whatever of those sessions are accepted. We also organize sort of extracurricular events for freelancers at the annual convention. And we have a lot of online virtual resources. So we maintain the On Your Own guide to freelancing, and also databases of freelance opportunities like upcoming deadlines for fellowships and grants, as well as a database of submission guidelines. We also put out a weekly newsletter that really just sort of features highlights. The current format of the newsletter features highlights from all of those platforms. So interesting conversations that have taken place in the Facebook group, notable tweets from our Twitter account. We have a really successful, popular Twitter account. So notable tweets from Twitter, conversations from Facebook and new additions that are highlighted from those databases, as well as just promoting freelance related events in the newsletter, like the monthly events that we put on, and occasionally bringing like issues of advocacy, freelance related advocacy to members' attention. This is a new area that we've been growing into, is the advocacy area. So we've recently signed on to 2 amicus briefs, one with the National Labor Relations Board and one for a Supreme Court case, to advocate for policies that are freelance friendly and what we believe are just fair and just for freelancers and journalists who are operating as independent contractors. So it's a little wide ranging. I think that maybe one project that we have going on right now is actually to develop bylaws for the freelance community. We're currently operating without bylaws and we're working to fix that. So maybe when we are hip deep in the bylaws project, we'll come up with an official mission statement. But that's my long-winded way of saying what we do. And there might be something I missed, in which case the other board members are welcome to chime in. Okay. And we hold these monthly board meetings that are open to, we do keep the board meetings open to SPJ members and freelance community, freelance community members. And another advantage of being a member of the freelance community specifically is, in addition to getting access to the members only events and resources, we also hold elections every fall. And so we are operated by an 8-member, what is currently an 8-member board. We'll see if the structure of the board changes at all as we put our bylaws together. But currently, it's an elected board of 8 members who are elected for single-year terms. So there's a chair, vice chair, secretary, membership coordinator, programming coordinator, resources coordinator, and 2 at-large members. And we currently do have an opening for an at-large member. One of the at-large members had to step back. She was overextended, so she had to step back. So we are currently recruiting for an at-large member to finish out the rest of this year. They're currently the board positions. Again, the current shape is they operate on the by the calendar year. Also, we just have a good time. We try to have fun and keep things pretty loose. So you'll see, Lida, I'm the chair, and I actually will give everybody else an opportunity to introduce themselves. I run a pretty casual ship. I'm not going to say loose, but I do run the meetings pretty casually. We tend to just sort of talk things through and arrive at decisions by consensus. And the rare occasion that we're not all in agreement, we'll hold a vote. That's the kind of thing that probably will get more structure built into it with the bylaws. But we try to keep things just casual and friendly and have fun while we're getting the good work done to support other freelancers. So why don't we go around and have the other board members introduce yourselves? Ginny, I know that you're driving, so I'm not sure, no pressure if you're not able to right now. I see that you're on mute, but Ginny is our secretary. And I don't think that she'll be able to join us to introduce herself, but Ginny lives in Cincinnati. She's also president of the Cincinnati Pro chapter, and has been with the Freelance Community Board for quite some time, several years, and is currently our secretary. Ruth, you want to go next?
Sure. I've been freelancing full-time since '84 and at least on the side since high school. And I I've worked on a weekly Black newspaper, and I've written for the Washington Post, the DC, Baltimore, and St. Louis business journals, and a whole host of more outlets than I can remember. I'm currently, my most frequent writing client is a website that covers commercial real estate in St. Louis, where I now live, and Kansas City. So I'm their St. Louis reporter, excuse me, and I'm responsible for, but have not yet done quite enough to say that the project is going smoothly, for the SPJ Freelance Community how-to guide that we're trying to update. I've just been so swamped. I haven't, and I apologize, but I haven't spent as much time on that as I would like. And I'm active in about a dozen other professional organizations, some of which are specifically for freelancers, and others of which have freelance chapters or groups or subsets, or everybody calls it something different. What else? Oh, and I'm the owner and host of an annual conference called Be a Better Freelancer. And I'm trying to set up this year's event in the next week or so, if I can find the hotel, with the ideal mix of affordable meeting space versus affordable guest rooms for participants. So far, I could get one or the other, but not both.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Hazel, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Hazel Becker. I have been with the freelance community since before it was a community. I am a retired journalist with freelancing at the beginning and the end of my career. I believe strongly that freelance journalists have a great future in our industry. And I have spent a great deal of time helping people stay afloat as freelancers in various ways. And that's all I can think of to say. Oh, I do the databases and the weekly newsletter, and am searching for somebody who wants to help with the updating and help put out the newsletter. So if you're interested in that, let me know.
Thank
I
you.
have to say, Hazel, the current issue of our newsletter with the broccoli magazine link
Yes.
was a stitch.
I thought so too. Well, you know, what are you going to call it? Weed magazine?
Yeah.
No, you call it broccoli. So
And I love broccoli.
yes. I won't ask you about the weed though.
I have covered legal weed outlets.
Yeah.
I haven't sampled, but I have covered.
Yeah, reminder that this meeting is being recorded.
Right.
Susan, you want to take it away?
So my name is Susan Ballett. I am an at-large freelance board member, and I am based in the Los Angeles area. And I basically, I've been involved with the board. I don't even know how many years. I came in under Anna Pratt, who was many years ago, after my first SPJ conference, which was in Fort Lauderdale, which I don't know. I think it was like 2009, something like that. And yeah, so I basically I help Hazel a little bit with the Facebook stuff. And I run our Twitter feed, which can be sort of in fits and starts because it depends on my schedule. But basically when I got our Twitter feed, I think it was around 1,200 followers. And today we now have 5,200. It slowly creeps up now that we hit a certain point. So we have the most followers on Twitter of any SPJ community or chapter. We haven't beat the headquarters yet. I don't think we could, but but we are and I think it has
Number one.
Yeah, I know. And I think it has helped to give us visibility in the organization. Because I mean, I've even gotten messages on there from people thinking that we are headquarters. And it's I have to tell people like, no, we are more active than headquarters, but we're not headquarters.
We're
Yeah.
active on Twitter.
Susan has also been Lida, our
I-
mainstay in the Fight for Freelancers activity against.
Yeah, so I
the-
have put on the advocacy hat, which is very weird for me as a journalist. AB5 here in California basically destroyed much of my freelance journalism business. And so I am involved in the Supreme Court case and in fighting the ABC test in other states and nationally, because I've seen what it can do here. And yeah, so I'm kind of the point person on that, and have been involved in pushing for getting us to sign on to briefs and be involved, because those laws will be detrimental to freelancers nationwide.
Yep.
And that's pretty
Thank
much
you.
me. I also play
Thank
ice hockey and go hiking if you care about my actual life, but
I just wanted to make sure that you know how much I appreciate you're doing the Fight for Freelancers stuff.
Yes. Amen.
it's
to that.
important.
So not here are Stacy Overton Johnson, who is a TV producer, freelance television producer. She has lived all over the world and is currently in Northern New York. When she's currently on vacation, but she's now living in Northern New York. And Solomon Smith is a photojournalism student who is based in the LA area, non-traditional student. He's finished a career with the military and is now back in school studying photojournalism. And I guess I do want to get to the meeting, but just in the interest of community and camaraderie, Joan, if you want to introduce yourself, and Lida, if you want to say a little bit more about your background and what brings you to the community, we'd welcome that, to hear more about you.
I'm happy to do that, and I'm so pleased to meet you all, and a little frustrated because I have a very tight schedule. So I'm only going to be able to be on this call for another, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, and then
Okay.
oh, but I want you to know that my leaving has nothing to do with you. It has to do with my stupid schedule. Just about me, I don't know what to tell you. I have a very strong broadcast background. I was an anchor at ABC Radio News for several years, and I was theater critic at WINS, the all news radio station here in New York, for some 13 years. And then I started, well, even while I was doing so much broadcast, I was also writing for theater magazines and other magazines. And then I started writing for more print outlets. And I've been published in the Washington Post and PBS Next Avenue and various other places. And always looking for the community of freelancers, because it is just, you're just sort of out there, you know, like a tightrope walker. So I'm, you know, thank you for being here is all I can say.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you found us.
Me too.
And Joan, no pressure, but I want to give you the opportunity as well.
I just kind of, in regards to the freelance community, it's, you know, I come along to the meetings, I listen, because I'm trying to get an understanding where, like everybody, where I fit into the community, because basically I come from a whole different approach altogether. I've worked within media, I've worked always behind the scenes though. As an investigative reporter, that has been my job. My greatest tool is the fact that I'm not known, because that's what I do. I provide other journalists who, you know, with the information, with the double, triple checked information legally, so that basically they can take it and run with it. I'm the person that basically is, you know, sometimes as journalists all are, in dangerous positions. I am the person that basically nobody knows. that nobody sees, that basically stays behind the scenes. And that's where I am more than anything else, which means that I work very much with people seeking me out rather than me seeking other people out. I have a reputation in circles. So basically that's my forte, is what I do. I'm good at getting information. I'm good at people not knowing, you know, it's just one of those things, you know, it's like I'm the person that as a kid, if I was standing at a bus stop, people would come and tell me their life story, you know, so it's, again, it's just, you know, that's what I do. So no, I don't, you know, I've contributed to stories and don't take the, yeah, thank you. Good woman. There you go. You see, that's why I'm good at what I do and you're good at what you do. So there you go. So, you know, it's trying to figure out where I fit in the freelance community, because I know when we had a get together and there was a breakout room, I'm afraid the person was perplexed as to, well, I don't know what advice to give you in the breakout room, because, you know, but there you go. So I'm just kind of seeing where I fit in. Do I fit in? Should I start actually, you know, being a bit more open and out there myself? I don't know. So that's where I am. Long story short.
Well, thank you for everybody for sharing and for being here. And I think that it is one of the things that I like about freelancing is like the latitude that I can work on different types of stories. I can work on in different mediums, and it's fun. It's always fun to see the different ways that people make a go of freelancing. There are so many ways to do it. So it's always inspiring to hear, even if I've heard it before, it's always inspiring to hear the tales from what colleagues are doing. So thank you, everybody. And Lyda, totally understood that you're going to have to drop off at some point, and I'm happy to connect if you want to talk a little bit more, you know, offline about the freelance community and how you can be involved.
Thank you. I'd love to do that. Maybe you'll email your phone number or whatever.
Perfect. Okay.
And
All right.
thanks, guys. I'm gonna hop off. But
All
great
right.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for being here. All right. Take care. And with that, we will jump into the agenda. Starting with just the admin stuff, we'll have the minutes from March coming shortly. And Ginny, thank you very much for that. Stacy's not here for a full delegate task force update. I know that Hazel was able, I unfortunately missed the final meeting. The task force has wrapped up, and they came out with a recommendation to actually move to do away with the delegates altogether, and to move to a one member, one vote system. Stacy was I believe was the sole dissenter on that. And Hazel, can you refresh my memory? Did she, was she able to like write sort of a dissenting opinion or whatever it would be called?
Well, they haven't shared their report yet.
Okay, so the report's
So,
not out yet, but I think
I'm assuming that they will allow her to do that, but you know, the cards are stacked against us. They want to go to one member, one vote. Now, that's as far as their report is, but this would have to be approved by the delegates at the meeting. And the question is a system of delegates going to vote to abolish itself? And I don't know the answer. I don't know.
Have they, did I
Hazel, can you-
misunderstand what Hillary just said, or have they actually disbanded the delegates already?
No. The
Yeah.
task force is just a task force that doesn't have the authority to do anything more than make a
Okay.
recommendation.
All right, then I misheard you, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, no, that was just their recommendation, and then it requires lots of steps,
Okay.
you know, through
Okay.
the process.
Can someone just quickly go over the pros and cons of switching systems?
Sure. Or Hillary, did you want to do that?
I am wondering if their report would actually be a better thing to rely on to explain their reasoning, because I was able to attend a lot of the meetings that were like the sort of the research meetings, but I personally wasn't at the final meeting where the decision was made. I mean, I'm like sort of aware of some of the thinking, but I'm not sure that I'm the best person to summarize it.
Well, I would like to do that just briefly.
Please.
The convention last year, the business meeting at the convention last year was very contentious. And some people walked away from it feeling like it was icky politics. And as though there were people who were power grabbing and they want the power and they want to make everything be how it is. And that came out in the delegate task force meetings when people said, one person said that a board member had resigned because they didn't want to be part of something that was that icky. That's really unfortunate that it came out that way. And perhaps I'm in part to blame, I don't know. But there were people, the same people, a lot of the same people who want to abolish the delegate system are also pushing one member, one vote, because for a number of reasons. And one is that headquarters can't seem to get it together to count how many members each chapter has. And so the question is, how are the delegates chosen, and do the chapters have the delegates that they're supposed to have? So that's a problem that needs to be fixed. The membership database has to be fixed, whether we go one member, one vote or not.
Right.
So that makes that argument somewhat irrelevant, in my opinion. They think that it would just be easiest to give the 7-member elected board plus the 2 appointed members, essentially appointed by the president for the last 2 years or maybe 3 years, all the power over how SPJ runs. And I personally don't think that's a very healthy situation, because one year the board could say we want to do it this way, and then the next year the board could say we want to do it this way, and nothing's ever going to get done. But I don't really think the proposal will pass anyway. I hope not, because I'm not in favor of it. And the reason I'm not is Stacy really spoke a very good line to the task force about the engagement that she saw among people who are delegates, and they're very involved with SPJ. And she's afraid that by doing away with the delegate task force, you're going to lose some of that.
By doing away with the delegates, not the task force.
Right.
Yeah.
By doing away with the delegate system, you're going to lose that passion and lose that engagement for people who then go on to become SPJ leaders. So I don't know if I gave you all the pluses or all the minuses, but I agree with Stacy, and I think giving that much power to the board would be a mistake.
Yeah, I think another concern about the system as it currently operates is how really vague the unaffiliated delegate system is, and how poorly it's been sort of implemented, just in terms of like awareness about the fact that it exists, for example. And another issue that I heard come up is, there are only, so there are technically X number of delegates. I'm not going to try to come up with the number off the top of my head, but there's X number of delegates. I think out of all of the delegates that represent all of the membership, only maybe half of them actually get to the convention and exercise their delegate vote. And so there's one argument was like, look at how many people are not represented in the delegate vote. Personally, I agree with it feels to me like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, when really it would behoove the organization to just fix the problems rather than to eliminate, all traces of it, because you do just eliminate that much opportunity for engagement, which I think is a shame. So to that end, the report will be forthcoming. And I will say, I do just want to say for the record, like, kudos and huge appreciation to Stacy Overton Johnson for serving on the task force, because that took a lot of time and energy. And she was really dutiful with it and did a great job representing communities and representing the freelance community. So definitely a round of appreciation to Stacy for serving. And I also will say Adam Sennett, who was chairing the task force, reached out to me last week, but I was on vacation. So he did just reach out to talk about, how it went down, because he knew that I was not going to be in favor of it. And so I appreciated his outreach. I haven't had a chance yet. I just got back from Monday night. So I haven't had a chance yet to reach out to him, but their report will be forthcoming, and I'll make sure to forward it on to the board when it does come out. I also think that it is, I'm not going to try to predict how likely or unlikely it would be for the delegates to vote to abolish themselves, but it seems unlikely. And I'm up for reviving the proposal to introduce community representation to the delegate system. If the delegate system is going to exist, I feel very strongly that communities should be represented explicitly. So we only have 45 minutes left. So we don't need to get into a big conversation about that right now. But I did just want to throw that out there. And if anybody has big feelings about it, you want to give me a preview of them now?
Can we, since we don't even know if what's going to happen with the delegates, this doesn't seem like the ideal time for that.
Fair enough. We won't know we won't know what their vote is going to be until they vote it. So we're going to need, if there is going to be a proposal for community representation, it's going to have to get proposed well in advance of the delegate meeting. And like I said, I'm not interested in having a big conversation about it, but I just wanted to float it out there that that's something that I'm interested in pursuing this spring and summer. Other than that, I think that wraps up, unless there's anything anybody else, any questions or comments anybody else has about the delegate task force or a delegation representation in general. All right. Hazel, can you give us an update on the freelance fund that's moving forward and getting ready to be announced in conjunction with the April Day of Giving, right?
Right. And so there's been some, well, let's just say that people at headquarters have been busy. And there's been some breakdown in communications, so that what probably would have happened by now hasn't happened yet. But it should happen in the next week. As far as I can tell, I know for a fact that the information has been sent to headquarters to get the page on the website. The freelance fund team, or I don't know
Yeah,
what
sure,
team,
team.
yes, has met and decided that we are going to propose that we are going to start a freelance fellowship to bring at least 2 freelancers to the Media Fest event in October. And so we've been working on getting that in order so that there will be an application form and the information will be on the website. The deadline for, the early bird deadline is not until, I believe, early October. And so we have until then. We don't have to make our application deadline that late, but we could if we decide we want to. So that's the freelance fellowship. It's the first project of the freelance fund. The place on the website where you can donate to the freelance fund is active. You can get to it, but it didn't have, last I looked, it didn't have the explanation of what the fund was about.
Okay.
So there, I'm hoping that that will all, that the press release will go out and the pages will be on the website and all that stuff before the day of giving, which is coming right up.
Thank you for the update, Hazel.
Mhm.
Moving along on the admin side, the bylaws team met in March after our board meeting, like the week after our board meeting. And I put into the agenda what the proposed schedule is for bylaws development. We have another meeting tentatively scheduled for next week. And generally speaking, we're going to try to hammer out draft bylaws to provide to the board members 2 weeks in advance of our June meeting.
And Hillary,
So-
I just sent a message to you and Solomon that I need to reschedule from the 19th to some other day next week or the week after.
Okay, that's fine. We don't need to work through that now, but we
So
can
you know.
work through that offline. And I just wanted to let everybody know, give everybody a heads up that we usually, I don't usually ask for people to do specific homework in advance, like for the board meetings, but we are going to need everybody to do homework in advance of the June board meeting, because we need everybody to take time to review the draft bylaws. So again, we're going to give board members 2 weeks with draft bylaws. We're going to want you to have taken the time to review them and work through any questions that you have, so that at the June meeting, we can discuss your questions, observations, get feedback. The team will then do our best to make quick work of the revisions and try to get the revised draft bylaws before the full freelance community membership for a minimum of 2 weeks before the July meeting. And then at the July meeting, we'll take public comment on the bylaws, on the proposed bylaws. For the
Hillary, when you
freelance
say public comments, what public?
freelance community members.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. Freelance community members specifically. If that is successful, and barring complications, hopefully the board will be prepared to ratify the bylaws at the July meeting. If not, we'll go back to the drawing board and address whatever needs to be addressed. But I just want to give you a heads up that we are going to be calling on the board members to do that homework this summer. And thanks to Ruth and Solomon and Joan for being present at the last work session on that. So that's the deal there. And then just generally, I have put into the agenda sort of draft quarterly goals, trying to split it up quarter by quarter so that we avoid the temptation to try to do everything at once, and trying to prioritize order of operations here. If you have any feedback on this, please do use the comments or suggested edits or whatever to let me know your feedback. I'm sure it's missing things. Again, this is just a first pass at the quarterly goals, but I'm trying to just make sure that we keep the train moving so that by election time, there's a well-structured, well-documented, well-positioned community to hand off to the new leadership. So with that, I will turn it over to Hazel for the membership report. Oh, you're on mute, I think, Hazel.
Okay, I can talk to you while I try to figure this out.
Okay.
This two-screen business is difficult sometimes. I had to get the cursor back on the agenda, so I could talk to you about the membership report. Let's see. We have 435 members. There were 405 members at the last meeting, so about 30 this month. And I feel like it's possible that headquarters is starting to get a handle on the database and how the signups work and stuff like that. And maybe it's easier for people now. There was a problem. Some people were saying that they weren't able to renew their membership and stuff like that. But that seems to have been cleared up. I haven't had a chance. I'm getting the rosters on the day before the meeting, and so it doesn't give me really time to do comparisons between this month and last month. But I know that we have 10 or more members in each of 12 states. Not surprisingly, New York, California, Texas, Illinois, and Florida are the top ones. That's fairly standard. We have, let's see, we have 3 members in Puerto Rico and 9 members in DC. And the 3 members in Puerto Rico is more than the number of members in each of 15 states. So that says to me that that's a fairly strong contingent, and maybe it could grow there. So I hope that we will be able to think about that. Our 13 non-US members are spread across 10 countries. There are 2 each in Canada, Italy, and Pakistan.
Interesting.
You know, one person signed up and liked it and had a buddy sign up or whatever, you know, who knows? But I know that the countries represented are different from last time, and I did not get a chance to go back and look at that, and I don't know how important it is. The SPJ database is not very friendly for people who don't have US address structures. So maybe at some point they'll fix that. I don't know. I have now updated the subscription list for the weekly newsletter so that all people who are on the roster are on the newsletter. What I haven't done yet is go back and look and see who is not on the roster, but is subscribed to the newsletter. And the question I have for the board is, what do you want to do about it? What if I find 100 to 200 people, which is what I think the number is, who are receiving our newsletter but are not members of the freelance community? So I don't know if we want to talk about that right now or talk about it.
I would suggest putting something in the top of the newsletter about, please make sure you've signed up for the freelance community and here's how to do it.
Great idea. I like that.
Somebody want to write that up for me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also, I would suggest doing direct outreach to those people who would get pulled,
Yeah.
to encourage them to sign up.
Okay. I agree. I agree. Once again, I'm in this situation where writing things is difficult for me.
Okay,
So
I am putting my name on it.
thank you.
You bet.
And the only other thing I have to report is that I am going to have knee surgery.
Oh,
And it's probably going to be in the first part of May. And if the newsletter is going to come out and the database is going to be updated during that time, I don't know how that's going to happen.
okay. Okay. Good to know.
It might
Thank you.
just be that we take a 3-week recuperation time and tell people.
Yeah, we'll do.
Maybe they'll volunteer then.
Yeah, we'll do what we can. Totally. But thank you for the heads up. That's helpful to have the heads up. Okay. Anything else on membership? All righty. I am going to skip programming and come back to it and ask Ruth for you to give an update on resources, or Susan. Actually, Susan, why don't you give an update on advocacy? I have to step away for one quick second and I'll be right back. Can you give an update on advocacy, please?
So it's pretty much, we have signed on to 2 amicus briefs. One was ruling that was going before the, what is it, the labor board nationally.
Labor Board Relations.
Yeah, NLRB or NLBR, whatever it is.
National Labor, yeah, National
Yeah.
Labor Relations Board.
Let's have a longer name if we can. And then we have signed on to the amicus brief for the Supreme Court case against AB, or that ASJA and the National Press Photographers are asking the Supreme Court to hear their case regarding AB5 here in California. And the basic, I mean, just to boil it down to like one sentence, the basic argument in that case is saying that basically AB5 says you can't, the B prong of the ABC test in AB5 says that you can't do freelance work for a company that's in the same field as you are, which basically, but then they came out with a law that has like 200 exemptions, but they exempted print reporters, but they didn't exempt video reporters. And then they put radio and audio reporters in a gray area where everybody was confused. And so basically their argument is saying that you can't put restrictions on one type of media because it ultimately restricts all, because media is no longer siloed. That, you know, if I, as a radio reporter, go out to a fire and shoot some video that can be thrown on Twitter, now I have to be hired as an employee. But if I didn't take the video, then I don't have to be hired as an employee. Like, so that's the basic argument that they're taking to the court. And I had emailed, because I did not get any response from people on the national board. I emailed the presidents of pretty much every chapter. And then they started contacting the national board, and I got, it was about a half dozen chapters had signed on. And then at the very last minute, the national board signed on, which superseded those chapters. That case, the Supreme Court has asked the state of California to respond to the case, which is an indication that at least one of the justices is interested in hearing the case. And so that basically pushed back the deadline by 30 days. So if you know of other journalism groups that have not signed on, that might be good to sign on, please spread the word. We've got probably another week or two before that next deadline kicks in. But that's basically where it stands. There are a bunch of ABC tests that have popped up, that are popping up around the country. And so this is really the beginning of a battle to maintain our ability to remain freelancers.
Thank you. And yeah, to echo Ruth's comments from earlier, thank you so much for wearing the advocacy hat on this and for carrying that torch. It really, you've been amazing at keeping updated on a really complex and multi-pronged and ever moving, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, series of developments. So thank you so much.
And I think the benefit of having emailed all of the chapter presidents and learning that some of the presidents listed online were actually no longer like, they were like, I haven't been president in X number of years, like the website was wrong.
Yeah.
But some of them didn't know that we existed. And so I got interest from at least a couple of chapters of like, hey, we'd like to, like, if you do webinars on this type of stuff, please let us know, like that, so that there's a benefit to, instead of just assuming that everybody reads our newsletter or sees our posts, like maybe we start, when we have stuff, emailing the chapters so that they also know, and sort of incorporating them into our plans.
Good idea.
I was really surprised by how many really didn't know anything about the freelance community and what it does.
I find that so annoying because even though it's not perfect, when you go to the SPJ website, there is a pretty prominent block there for the freelance side of things. I couldn't find anything about the freelance fund a few minutes ago, but our general presence is pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't think they're hanging out on the website or on our pages, or so I think that, yeah, the silver lining, kind of the advocacy hat, is also a hat of like advocacy links to chapters.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for that. I'll actually use that as a segue to programming, because, oh, wait a second, I did it. You guys told me last time, somebody said it, that I need to switch up the order of operations that we discuss things, and I forgot. So before I discuss programming, Ruth, why don't you go for resources?
Okay, I don't have a lot to report. I'm still working on updating the On Your Own guide. I haven't done anything with publication platforms because I'm trying to focus on the guide first. I don't know why Airtable and the newsletter are under me.
Well, they're resources.
They're resources. Okay, so is Airtable, Hazel, is Airtable where we have all of the pitching guidelines and so forth, or is it something else?
It's Airtable.
It is Airtable. Okay, so I will try to take a look at all of that.
You don't have to take a look at the Airtable stuff I just, they're resources, and so they're under the resources heading.
So the main thing about the Airtable databases and the newsletter is what Hazel already mentioned about trying to find somebody to pick up on those when she's ready to
Right.
let them go.
Yeah. And I'm going to work with, Hazel on that. I would love
Okay.
for you to stay focused on the On Your Own guide.
Yeah, I will, that's going to be my main focus.
Okay, great. And I would love, so just looking back at the quarterly goals, if we can get the updates drafted in this quarter. So,
Yeah, that's a good goal. I think
and
that's good.
then if we can get them published, so that means edited and also transferred to whatever the new publishing platform is going to be, and I'll help research that. I'm not like just sort of saying that you just need to figure it out, Ruth. Like, I'm just flagging it as
Yeah,
something
I'm
associated with resources.
I'm not sure how much we need to do with that. I mean, it seems to me, and we can talk about this at another time, it seems to me if there's some kind of a link from the main SPJ website to wherever we put the guide, that should be sufficient. I don't see needing a lot of different places for it or anything like that.
I think the challenge is that the way it's currently published, it needs to be hand coded. That's my understanding from Hazel. Do I have that right? It needs to be hand coded. And so we want to do research on different publishing platforms so that we make it easier to.
If that's the case, then I would suggest as our starting point, we think in terms of WordPress, but I don't think we have to spend time on it today.
Yeah. But I would like for, and this involves everybody, because as we've discussed in past meetings, like Ruth is sort of taking the lead on the updates, but also if anybody either flags something that needs to be updated, or if you have content to contribute, a new segment, for example.
Send it to me.
Yeah, then we need this to be an all hands on deck project to some degree. Although Ruth does have the lead on it. And then, yeah, if we can get it published in quarter
I'd very
three.
much like to get it up and out well before the conference, because then we've got something else to pitch to people during the conference. And
yeah,
I don't want to know what we're doing.
I don't want to go to another conference saying that we're working on updates to the On Your Own guide. So that would be great. And apologies for forgetting to reverse the order of discussion here. Sorry. I have like a routine that I go through when I'm sending emails and doing the agenda to make sure that I don't forget anybody. So I need to invert it. Apologies and thank you. So moving on to programming though, and I will start at the bottom here to just ping off of Susan's discussion about advocacy. So this is a new idea for a program that came up in the course of corresponding with Fight for Freelancers about the most recent amicus brief. Kim Cavan, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly.
I think it's Cavan.
Cavan.
I think
Kim
it's
Cavan from Fight for Freelancers suggested that she would love to debate Raphael from the Freelancers Union on the ABC test. And I think that sounds like a really fun, exciting, provocative, and informative program that I am totally behind the idea, unless Susan talks me out of it right now. What?
So my only concern with this is linking it with Labor Day. Labor Day is traditionally associated with unions. And so then that frames this as a unions versus freelancers thing.
Which almost makes sense if I'm understanding some of it, Susan, because aren't the people pushing for the PRO Act doing so because
it is, but they're also framing us as being anti-union, which is totally not true.
Yeah,
totally not true.
And so I don't want this to be a pro-union versus, I wouldn't want it to be linked to Labor Day and be construed as the pro-union versus the anti-union freelancers.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think that's really smart.
And Labor Day, people are out doing stuff.
Yeah,
people
and it
are
wasn't
having a picnic.
necessarily like specifically like on Labor Day, but you know.
Yeah,
Labor
so
Day.
I would unlink it from Labor Day,
Yeah.
just because we have battled that within the advocacy for freelancers and of being called Russian trolls and anti-union people, and you guys just hate unions, and it's not true.
Right. Right.
We just don't want to be forced into a job.
Yeah. And what they don't seem to understand is that forcing people to hire freelancers is not going to have an effect on unions.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So I would
that's for
just,
another day.
I just want to make sure it doesn't get framed as
Yeah.
pro-union versus anti-union.
Thank you so much for that consideration. I think that's really smart. So we'll go back to the drawing board with scheduling. But I mean, I'm happy to kind of take the lead. I feel like it would be great to partner with an organization like the National Press Club or something like somebody big, so that it's like a big deal.
I wonder, Hillary, would it be worth seeing if we could do something with the National Press Club the week of Media Fest or whatever this year's conference is called, when a bunch of us would be in DC who don't usually get to Washington and could attend in person and could speak up from the freelancer's perspective.
That's a good.
Maybe
consideration too.
piggyback it to the day before or day after the conference. What do you think, Hazel?
Hazel, you're still on mute.
Yeah, I mute it every time I have to cough. I think it's Tuesdays that the National Press Club has either a breakfast or a lunch newsmaker program. And so maybe that would be a good idea.
Yeah, maybe we could, and maybe we could see if, we definitely would want to see if Kim would be one of the key focus people, because she could be the newsmaker.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some talk about her coming to DC to testify in Congress also. So, you know, whether that can all work at the same time, I don't know. End of October, Congress frequently is out because it's right before elections. And this is an even year, so there will be elections.
Well, she lives in like New Jersey, so it's not
Yeah, she can hop
like
on
she's
a train.
coming from California or something.
Yeah.
Right. One thought, I don't know if the National Press Club is the right organization to do this.
Okay.
But we
I
can
don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. I'm open to suggestions. I just think that I would love to partner with an organization that has a higher profile.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay.
And I think we can bat it around a bit, but I think one advantage of doing this at the press club is that so many of their members are they may not call themselves freelancers, but a lot of their members are kind of the DC bureau of various publications. So they're actually functioning as freelancers. Maybe they're on staff or on contract, but a lot of them are functioning as freelancers representing an out-of-town publication. And I know from what I remember of my DC days, a lot of the DC bureau people are freelancing on the side because they aren't being bureau people as full-time employees.
Yeah.
The press club used to have some sort of a freelance group. I don't know if they still do.
You know, the press club has been inactive for the most part. They are back in person now.
Yeah.
But there are restrictions on who can come in.
Oh. Okay.
We're the DC chapter, SPJ chapter is going to start having in-person lunches again. I'm so excited, I can't tell you. But we're not going to do it at the press club because it's kind of a barrier for some of our people who might want to come otherwise.
So Hazel, at your next, do you have a DC freelancers lunch coming up?
Yes, it is the day after the freelance communities networking.
Okay. Would you be willing to bring that up and just bat around the idea and take suggestions for who would be good
Sure.
for us to partner with? And especially like, it would be good for us to partner with, an organization that we have an in with, like where we have, some overlap of members or an influential member there, something like that.
Yeah.
Something to consider.
I'll have to think that one through. I'll talk with Deanne about it. She would be a good person.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, cool. And then otherwise, so that was just like a sort of a relatively new idea for a program. I will say the resume program that we hosted in March, thanks to Ruth, was really successful, very well attended, very well received. We got a lot of good feedback on that. Felt like our best offering yet. So thank you
It was a lot of
so
fun.
much.
It was fun.
Good. I'm glad that it was. And I think that we're sort of like still learning the routine that we need to put into place and implement, almost like a template, right? We're trying to sort of use each event to build that up. And so I'll be working with Solomon on that. The April program is going to be networking.
What's the date on that one?
27th, I think.
Hold
2
on
weeks
one
from
sec.
today. Is that? Maybe that's wrong. No, that is right. 27th.
Yep, it's the 27th, Wednesday, the 27th, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
So that's our next event. And then I'll have to, go ahead.
I gave a presentation along with a South Florida member named Clayton Gutsmore at the Region 2 meeting.
Oh, nice.
And it occurs to me that that might make a program in a box.
Okay.
And the reason that is true is that I scripted mine. I did a very unattractive, plain PowerPoint, and I scripted it. Clayton did not script his, but he's given this talk a number of times in the past. It was essentially an anyone can freelance kind of thing. And he talked about how to use networking and pitching to build up your business, even whether you're full-time freelance or not, with a focus on students, because it was at a regional, and we, in the past, the history says that students come to regionals a lot.
Yeah.
That was not true in ours. Clayton was in Atlanta, and we had a great tech team from Virginia Tech University that did the whole hybrid conference. It was really very well done.
Awesome.
But it seems to me that there's enough there. I updated Freelance Business Basics, which is something Ruth and I have worked on in the past. So we have those three pieces, and it could actually, even just doing Freelance Business Basics as the program in a box would probably, if you're talking about like a half an hour presentation and then 15 minutes to a half an hour for questions, that
Sounds great.
yeah. So So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. And the other thing that happened that I thought was interesting, Dan Kubisky put together a fabulous panel with people who have reported from abroad. And we have a new member living in Arlington or Alexandria, I don't remember which, named Zubair. Oh, I forgot his last name. Anyway, he's from Afghanistan, and he and his wife have relocated to the DC area. And so he was there, and the woman who's now head of VOA. And then there was another person moderating this panel, and they talked a lot about how the local people get along or interact with the people who come in from outside to report. But in publicizing it, the international community said that the freelance community had put that program on. So we might as well grab it.
Yeah, really.
So anyway, at some point, if Solomon wants to talk about Program in a Box, I'll be glad to work with him.
Okay, cool.
So what's our focus, or who's going to present for the networking one?
So I think it's not really anybody presenting, it more just moderating a conference, just sort of very casual happy hour style, like chit chat is the way that we did it last time.
Yeah.
I think I would start the networking one with people sharing their tips for networking
Yeah,
online or networking in their life, but then also their tips for networking at conferences, which then you can promote the conference coming up.
Yep. I can help with that. I've got that. Speaking of Program in a Box, I mean, I can do that in my sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, so do Susan and Ruth want to take the lead on the networking program in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be super formal, but I'm just saying
Right.
we could kind of theme it, like, and then use that, and then, you know, if people have other issues, then talk about that. But yeah,
I'm up for it.
Sounds like a good format to me.
Sounds great. Yeah, I like it. Okay, cool. Networking event in April with a theme of networking.
Yep.
So meta.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds great. And
Networking
then-
about networking. How's that?
Yeah. No, that sounds really good, actually. I think that's a great and apropos theme for one of our early networking events.
yeah. So
Um,
even if you have later events, you know, you could theme it as like, you know, this week's or this month's networking event is on being productive, and then people can share their tips for that. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you can kind of use it as a jumping off point and then talk about it.
Totally. And then we'll check back with Stacy to see if she's going to be able to pull off the editor meet and greet for May. But in the meantime, as a reminder, proposals are due April 28th.
Yep.
For Media Fest. And so we've got Freelancing 101 is Hazel is the point person on Freelancing 101. Stacy is the point person on Editor Meet and Greet. Hillary is the point person on Moving Mediums. And Ruth is the point person on Freelancing 201. Does that sound right to everyone? And then we have, you know, like partner producers and team members, but those are the point people. Those are the proposals that we need to get shaped up. At the risk of stepping on Solomon's toes, but just because he's not here and we need to make sure that we get things moving along, how feasible does it sound to get the drafts, including speaker suggestions, because this is the big thing.
Yeah.
Remember, big emphasis from headquarters this year is we're not going to get away with not including suggested speakers. So looking at the calendar.
Since we usually all pitch in on reviewing some of this stuff and we have an event on the 27th, would it be too soon to say next Friday, the 22nd, as a deadline for drafting our proposals?
That's exactly what I was looking at too.
Is
Yeah.
that okay, Hazel, with you?
Susan, does that work for you?
What's that?
Does Friday, the 22nd as a deadline work for you?
I don't have any proposals, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Why am I asking you? Stacy, who's not here, does that work for you? Okay, good. Great. Hearing no objection.
Stacy just sent us an email message, by the way, saying that she can't be at the meeting tomorrow. So I think she has her days mixed up.
Okay. Fair enough.
And so this is classic. You're not here, you get a deadline.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, let's work on that. And then what else am I looking at? That's it. Therein concludes our scheduled official business with 90 seconds to spare.
But we did it. It's good. We got through the whole agenda.
Even
Good
with
job.
a long chit chat at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I know, Hazel, if you have a minute to stick on, let me just see if there's anything before I stop the recording, if there's any other official business to discuss. And I'm guessing Ruth is all set with that. So let me go to pause.
Bye,
or stop
Jeannie.
recording. All righty. All right, all done with the meeting. Thank you, everybody. And